Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SCAD aTV Fest, and thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm Jared Hall, Senior TV Editor at Entertainment Weekly. Today, the festival welcomes the OWN series Queen Sugar, which is about to kick off its 5th season. And joining us today from the series are Rutina Wesley, who plays Nova, Kofi Siriboe, who plays Ralph Angel, and Dawn-Lyen Gardner, who plays Charley. Hello to all of you. Great to see you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. So I would kind of like to start at the end of the premiere because I audibly gasped here sitting on my sofa watching on this TV what happened between Ralph Angel and Darla on that riverfront walk. I got to know, Kofi, like, how excited were you to even like get to that page of the script to know that this is where this is going?
Man, it's mixed emotions, man. It's been a journey with me and Darla. So to be real, it's like, you know, like any real relationship, it's just a flurry. It's a flurry of emotions. But for us to come this far and to come through everything we've been through and to finally get back to the love, I feel like with Darla and Ralph Angel, we've seen them up and down and, you know, helping each other and being there for each other. But you know, the romantic side, the love side, the part where they, you know, they connect as adults, as humans. Like that's the part I love to see. So it was one of those finally moments.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you. I always sit here on this couch. I'm rooting for these two so much. So I'm very excited to see where this goes. And you know, I gotta say, Ralph Angel wears his emotions on his sleeves. For me, there are very few characters or performances that kind of get me emotionally the way he does, the way that you just, those tears sit in your eyes. And I feel everything. I'm kind of constantly like finding myself sitting here tearing up too. So, you know, he's gone through a lot. He's going to continue to face some obstacles this season. We see with the farm certainly, and still trying to find a way to forgive Nova. So what is it that you love so much about becoming this character and his journey from where we first met him?
It's a great question. I love Ralph Angel's humility, you know, and his courage. You know, I feel like he wears his heart on his sleeve and he takes on a lot, but he does it so genuinely. And it's because he has such pride and such respect for his family and what that means. And I respect him. I look up to him, you know, and I find a lot of myself in him, and I see a lot of myself in him. And I discover a lot of myself that I didn't know or didn't want to know through him, which is, you know, that's a sacred space and that's a great opportunity. So that's why I appreciate Ralph Angel and I appreciate playing Ralph Angel. But he's a cool dude. He's a cool dude and he does cool stuff. I
absolutely
look up to that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I'd kind of pose the same question to you, Rutina and Dawn-Lyen. The arcs of these characters over 4 seasons and where they're going. Is there one in particular that you kind of look back on and are really proud of what you got to explore with your character?
You know, I don't know. It's not proud, but the book storyline in season 4, I felt like we saw Nova learn a lot about herself. She grew. I mean, my thing about Nova that I love is that we see her grow every year. Every season we see her sort of mature in a way that she hasn't in the past. But as an actor, having to go through that storyline and literally having everyone mad at you, all of your family mad, and having to deal with that, and having to deal with, you know, what the truth actually is and the consequences behind it sometimes. It's one of the it's the hardest, I think, arc I've had. It was really difficult because I remember being like, can you guys just stop being mad at me? Can we not do this anymore? But I loved what it did for Nova. Yeah, it matured her in a way, and she grew in a way that we hadn't seen her before. So I think it was necessary to do something like that for her.
Yeah, I think for Charley and thinking about all the different arcs that she's had in terms of all the different parts of her life, that's a really hard question. Just to piggyback on what Ruth said, I'm really proud of that sister relationship. And I'm really proud of how multifaceted it is, what that journey really has been. I feel like it's been one of the most honest depictions of sisterhood that I've seen, and especially two Black sisters. And I just feel like we have done a lot of justice to the complicated, very messy, gray areas that can be in sisterhood. That is really, I think, underexplored in life and underexplored in storytelling. So I'm really proud of all of the directions Charley has gone in relationship with Nova, and I really feel like without that relationship, she wouldn't be the person that she is now, because she's almost had this, not quite foil, but she's had this like person who is not the opposite of her, but definitely moves in a completely different way in the world. And though they may have very similar aims in the long run. So I feel like it's formed her in a way that I don't think she would have been formed in these 4 years otherwise. And I'm pretty proud of that. I'm pretty proud of how she's evolved, especially in relationship to her sister.
It's been great to watch that play out. Let's get into some of the nuts and bolts of even being able to make your 5th season, because the first episode rather was filmed before the pandemic forced productions everywhere to shut down, and then after that, George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and the election. So Ava DuVernay, your fearless leader, and with all of her wisdom, said, you know what, we've got to scrap everything we've written, which to me is just wild and crazy, but it of course had to be done given the context of this show. So what kind of conversations did any of you or all of you have with her and the rest of the creative team about that, and what was going to happen versus now what is going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, when I heard that was the plan, to scrap the entire season 5, my jaw dropped, and I in some ways mourned for the writers, just how much they had invested and poured themselves into the work, which is what they do every season. And I just, I was really overwhelmed with awe that was the endeavor. And also I felt it was so brave to not only abandon what the plan was and create a whole new plan, but to honor what all of 2020 was. And especially for Black folks, and especially for communities of color. So I felt it was such an incredible undertaking, and it was pedal to the metal in terms of having to do that and to do it so quickly. So I just really salute Ava and all of who was involved, which was mostly our showrunner Anthony Sparks and co-executive producer Norman Vance. That team, I mean, really churned it out in sort of record time, and especially in almost, not quite, but almost real time, in terms of the conversation being, in response to what was happening in our world. So I am really proud of all that we've been able to storytell in this season, because it was so fresh for all of us at the same time, and personally.
Anyone else? Please feel free to add. Yeah.
And I'll just say, when I heard that that's what they wanted to do, I was like, that's it. Like, that's how we do it. This is how we heal. This is how we help the world, by reflecting what's actually going on. And so it made me, like, I was excited. And also, as we were filming things, it was difficult because it was real. And these things did happen. So I found myself getting tripped up sometimes, because I would have to take a moment sometimes, because of like, this has happened, and how am I, the Rutina, and then like Nova, but Rutina would also just be like in a deep sort of, like, my heart would be breaking for our world, our country. And so, but then as an actor, it's nice to throw it all back into your art. So I just kept putting it back into the art. Like, everything I was feeling, I just gave it my all, because I know, when people see you give your all, they can really hear it and they can really receive it, So it was beautiful and challenging at the same time.
Well, and of course, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying, well said. I mean, she said it all. Yeah, well said. Well,
And of course,
What
social injustice and police brutality, that has been discussed and explored on this show. Sadly, it's nothing new. But how will the events of last summer and the Black Lives Matter movement be woven into the fabric of this season?
You'll just have to
I know.
Just joking.
I would say specifically for my storyline, thank God we have Blue. You know, and I think Blue adds such a great perspective. You know, we get to see it from such a genuine, innocent, when I say non-affected, you know, it's new. You know, he's a kid. He doesn't really know that pain, that trauma, that history yet. So seeing him have to absorb that and try and make sense of that. And then, seeing how that affects him and seeing him actually go through the process of absorbing that. It's pretty. It's intense. It's intense. It's interesting. It's like I don't even none of those other words. It's just it's sad. It's pretty sad, but it's beautiful to be able to like tell that story and transmute that pain, because again, it's something we've all been going through. Now, you know, it was happening while we were telling that story. So seeing it through Blue's eyes is pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think too, one of the things that Queen Sugar always does, and this season is no different. In fact, I think it's actually more enhanced in this season, is you get to see all of these perspectives on these events that we all actually went through, right? You get to see it through and with really particular and distinct eyes, right? And I think that that's part of what makes the show sing, is this complex and nuanced, layered and intergenerational conversation that's happening at all times, always. And I think with these events, with what happened in this last year, and with it being an unprecedented time with COVID and with BLM, I think it offers an opportunity for people to process, to just really process what happened, and to find themselves, to locate themselves in sort of the universe, you know, being changed by those events and now incorporating them into their lives. And I think that's part of what the show offers, is this place to understand what is happening, understand and further unpack, and not necessarily need to be right about it, but to just present as many sides to it as possible. And I'm really excited for that journey for our audience.
Well, and isn't that interesting too, because so many people throughout everything, especially last summer, there was that conversation, people wanting to know what is the right thing to say. And kind of to your point, it's not so much about saying the right thing, but it's just about having the conversation.
Yeah, I think it's more about feeling than about saying. It's more about being willing to be with than about posturing or even the doing. It's really, I think, experiencing, taking in, being honest about it with yourself. And I think that that's what we saw more people doing last year ever than before, in my opinion. I definitely felt that and heard that in my own community and friends and social networks. And I feel like that's what we're encouraging in the show. We're encouraging honest dialogue with each other and with yourself about things that we all have known have been happening and are impossible to turn away from and ignore anymore. And in fact, we must center it if we're going to really deal with it. And that's what the show does. It's been doing it actually before now. It's been doing it its entire life. But the world caught up with it. And it's the perfect place to understand and unpack that.
And given that Charley is now an elected official, she's a councilwoman, is there any internal conflict between Councilwoman Charley and Mom Charley in terms of how to approach what's going on when she's, discussing and dealing with things with Micah?
It's a good question. I think what was so interesting in the filming of this is that, Micah is also at this incredibly tender time in his life, right? He's been waking up in the evolution of the show and of his character to these exact issues long before the events of last year, right? So she's also I think Kofi spoke to this beautifully. Like she's watching that happening as a parent. She's facilitating understanding of it, and she also has to surrender. There's a certain amount of like she can't control how he is experiencing it, what he's what he's creating around it, how he's taking it in, and there's a reality of that he's a Black man at the same time. So there's the thing that I think all of us feel around our Black men in our lives, of just protection and fear and wanting to just block out the world and make sure nothing hurts him. But he also must face it. So I think there's a part of her that is not necessarily at odds with that in terms of her political role, but there's just a controlling part of her that is a part of her character that really wants to be able to step in and block it, and it's impossible. The world and the circumstances don't allow that, and so that's I think what we see play out is less the political professional role at conflict and more just the part of her that just wants to save her family above all else.
Yeah. Rutina, let's get into Nova's season 5 arc here. I want to start with her relationship with Calvin, because that seems to be going pretty well. There's growth. He's even, we see him having some kind of uncomfortable conversations, but he's learning and he's listening. So what do you love about this relationship and what you're able to kind of put on display for audiences?
I love their love. And I love that because they love each other so much, they're not afraid to actually start to kind of unveil things and have those conversations that they should have been having years ago. But I feel like Nova loves him so deeply that she couldn't get rid of the love. So she's like, well, let me then just dive in, but we're gonna have to deal with some issues. And I need to know maybe about your past and tell me more about being a cop. Because she's got people coming at her from different ways of how can you date someone who's a cop or let alone live together? It's like, how can you do that? And I've always said she loves him, but is love enough at the end of the day? Like, how far can it go? If we're not really having those deep conversations. So I love for people to see that out there, because sometimes the opposites do attract, and then sometimes people who you don't think will be together end up being together, and it works and it's great. And we don't always see relationships like that. I think it's one of the harder relationships. Like, I remember I used to always fight for that relationship with Calvin, because I was like, no, people need to see this work. This could be possible, but they also need to see the rawness of it too, and how it gets kind of like there's kinks in it. So it's not always the best thing, but I love that they've sort of reconnected and come back together. And I'm not going to give it all away, but it'll be interesting and exciting, I think, to see where they go with it and what it, how Calvin is experiencing versus how Nova is experiencing things. It's going to be really dynamic, I think, to see the two of them discuss some things that are coming up. That's all I'll say.
So you don't have to tell us where it goes, but on a scale of 1 to 10, at the end of the season, how happy is she?
10.
Oh,
I mean, she's dancing. They're dancing in that empty house. Like, this is it. Like, it's gonna be great. And then it's a 10.
Okay.
And then you gotta,
all right.
And then it lives.
All right.
Let's just say that, because I think, everyone has that like honeymoon period, right? Even when you reconnect with somebody, you have a little honeymoon period, and then you get to the work. And then you get to life. So that's what's gonna be. But yeah, I would say 10. I would say a 10.
All right, great. And then on the kind of the flip side, for the professional side, she has started this website, True Colors. Is that right?
True Papers.
True Papers. Yes, thank you. So tell us more about how that's going to evolve and how that will play into the season.
Well, that's different. I mean, she's doing True Papers sort of an ode to her mother, and I think because of everything that happened with the book, she's, I think, thought of a different way that she can sort of maybe continue to help the community heal. And so it's a paper for the people. And it's for them to sort of get the information that they need, get the facts straight, all of that. And, you know, Nova's a woman of the people. So I think she's going to, you know, continue with her activism and continue pushing like the facts forward, but also trying to help those around her, you know. And I think it's beautiful to see that she's continuing to write, because I've loved Nova as a journalist always and as a writer too. So it's a beautiful thing to see her want to continue that, especially in the times that our country is living in right now. How great would it be to have a community paper that comes around like once a week or every month, you know, that you can sort of look to get the facts, to know what's going on without any of the BS or the fake, no fake headlines. Like it's real, you know. So I think it's beautiful that she's doing that.
Indeed. We do have some questions here that we have received. And the first one actually is for you, Rutina. How has your education and experience as a professional dancer helped shape your career as an actor?
Oh, that's a great kind of question. I would say growing up being a dancer, I really know my body well and my physical life as an actor. I know how to move and how to navigate my body. And sometimes though, it could get you in trouble, because I know sometimes I've gotten notes from directors that are like, you're dancing, like don't dance through and I'm like, I'm just walking. They're like, no, it's a dance. And I'm like, oh, okay. So sometimes I have to like scale it back. But dancing has made me really just be aware of my physical life, and spatial awareness of all of those things. And at the same time, the actor part of me has helped me to let go of it, and to then just to be free, to not try to make a pretty picture, but like just be in the moment and living in the moment. Yeah. But dancing has definitely given me some a strong, you know, I have a strong physical presence, I think, and that comes from all my dance background.
Dawn-Lyen and Kofi, is Rutina the first to like take over the dance floor at rap parties and cast dinners and stuff?
I mean, she'll do it on set. We don't have to wait.
First,
On set.
but she may be the last. You know what I mean? Like she may not be the first one out, but she'll be the last one out. Like,
yeah,
so eventually get herself out there, and then she'll throw it on down.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right. Love it. Love it. All right. Our next question we have is for Kofi. You just launched your own media company, We're Not Kids Anymore, to feature content to intertwine education, entertainment, and technology. Congrats on that. That's definitely an intersection that students at SCAD are seeking to navigate. So can you talk a little bit about what inspired you to create this brand and how film students can push to stay relevant in the industry where so much content is available?
Wow, that's a great question. Shout out to whoever that is who shouted out We're Not Kids Anymore. And We're Not Kids Anymore, it's like it was birthed from that young 20-year-old I was, turning 21, kind of just excited about the world, excited to officially be an adult. And 5 years later, I'm 26 and I'm like, man, I don't know, I think I want to be a kid again. And it's like, it's so cliche, because it's like they always tell you, don't rush to grow up, stay a kid. But then it's like you become an adult, and then it's like, I'm still a kid to like a 40-year-old or a 50, and then it's like, what is an adult, what's a kid, and where are we right now? That being said, I just wanted to create a space where we could concentrate our experience. Like these last 20 years have been crazy, like the birth of PayPal and Uber and Twitter and Instagram and Zoom and FaceTime and iPods, and like our generation is like, it's an era, everybody romanticizes like the 90s and the 80s and the 70s, but like the 2000s, like this is an era, looking back, like this is the birth of a very different time. So that being said, like, I just think it's cool to kind of put all that information in one place and kind of like take ownership over the narrative. As young people, we're always being like talked about, like people are always like, the millennials, and it's like, it's always like, third person perspective, but I just think it'd be cool where we could actually have a community where it's our voice, you know what I'm saying? And it's coming from us, and, so it's a universal post, because it's people everywhere. But yeah, that was the genesis of We're Not Kids Anymore. And I'm excited for it, man. It looks good.
Yeah, congrats on that. That is great. Much success to you there. Dawn-Lyen, I will have an audience question for you, but I've got to ask this first. We have to talk about Amira Van as Parker Campbell. Many will know her from How to Get Away with Murder, some other places, but when she popped up at the end of season 4, like she's just there in that office you walk into, you think the guy sitting at the desk is Parker, and she turns around. I was like, oh, hell yes, here we go. This is going to be fireworks. So is there like a different energy or dynamic that you feel in those scenes with her?
So first of all, I am like a stupid fangirl of Amira Van, right? Like, so I myself also had that response when I found out that she was the one who's going to be playing Parker Campbell. I remember exactly, I was sitting in a makeup chair and I was told, I was like, I just flipped out. So we have like a bit of an actor girl crush on each other, and I love working with her because it's so electric when we get to work together. So I'm personally thrilled that she's our Parker, and I'm excited for what's coming in that first episode, because it does there is this sort of crackle between us, and we are like kindergartners together. Truly, we're just sort of like, so what are we going to do? What do you think? How should we do this dance? It's really it's been a joy and a half to work with her.
She's so sly the way she operates. Oh my gosh! I can't wait to see what happens there. All right. While I have you all, I'll open this up to you, but the others, you can jump in here as well. Another audience question. Is there any crucial or specific type of training that you believe a SCAD performing arts student needs to master before leaving the university?
Ooh, that is a very, very, very good question.
It is.
Rue, I'm gonna ask for your help on this one. So Rue and I went to school together, and I would say that, one of the most beautiful things that I've seen as an actor outside of school is that at a certain point, the training, it actually, it needs to be absorbed. And so I would say that it isn't one skill. It isn't one like craft or skill thing. I think it's a process of getting to know who you are fundamentally. Get like the courage to get to know who you are. Be that through your instrument in terms of your body and physically, be it through your voice, be it through the way that you break down a script. But having that truthful conversation with yourself as an artist, that to me is actually the thing that you can walk away from the training program. That's the opportunity of that time, because you get to fail as much as you want there's no consequence to that. And that will not be the case forever. So, taking advantage of this time to try and move and stretch and grow and be uncomfortable so that what center is invaluable. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Dawn. That's it right there. I will say this because I remember when I graduated and just being out in the business, I wish at the time when I first graduated that I had more on-camera classes. Just to kind of get the logistics of what the camera is and what do I need to even be worried about it. Because I remember when I first started True Blood, I got there and I was like, okay, there's a boom. What's that mic? What is that? What's the cameras? Oh my God. I was freaking out and I just didn't want to get fired. I was freaking out. And I remember one of our cameramen pulled me to the side and he was like, Rutina, he's like, you can look over here. The camera's over here. Because I was acting away from the camera. Like everything was like here. I was scared of it because I was scared of it. So I wish I had some more like on-camera classes just so you can get that out of your system. So on the day you're not worried about things that you don't, that you shouldn't really be worried about. You can just focus on the work. Yeah, that's what I'll say. So because we got some on-camera classes at school, but not a lot. So I wish that there was more. So
good advice there. Go ahead, Kofi, if you want to add.
I was gonna say, just to build off what Don was saying, like self-discernment is like so key, just to like be able to check in and like know where you are, when you are, like how you're feeling, what you're feeling, being in tune with your emotions, so key, so key. That's just like something that's like a proverb for me, just being able to identify where I'm at. One of my coaches back in the day used to say, being able to be okay with your 12 hours of light and your 12 hours of darkness, because we all have 24 hours, but don't just look for the romantic sides of yourself or the easy, comfortable sides of yourself, but the entire spectrum is like, colors for you to play with, So,
yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful thought right there. And I just have one last question for you guys, which I think will also be of interest to the students here. Ava DuVernay and the rest of the creative team, they have made it their mission, and very successfully so, that every episode of this show is to be directed by a woman. And please correct me if I'm wrong here, but one of your directors in season 5 is actually someone who started as a PA and worked their way up.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
Sierra
Claude.
Claude,
We loved her. We loved her. She is one of the hardest working people I know. She's hardest working people. She's driven, and all of that toppled up with like one of the nicest, kindest, most generous hearts. So, you know, for me, and I'm sure for you guys too, like seeing her come back and be directing. Like I had to I had moments. I had to be like, I gotta wait. Like, I'll be back. Hold on, let me go cry. Because I was so excited to see her, you know, it was just great.
She deserves it though, man. She deserves it.
Yeah. Big time.
And to also do it in a season
y'all worked on a short film, right?
We did her first short I produced and starred in that with her. And it was like an amazing experience. And then I even said to her on set when she came, I was like, look at you now. Look at what we're making now. Look at this. Look at this. This is not a short. Okay. This is an episode. You have 3 of them. And like she just is smiling. She's the biggest smile you ever, you know. I mean, you're right, Kofi. She deserves it because she really has put in the work. She really, really, really did.
She does.
And she also is from the region, right? She's from the New Orleans, like Gulf, you know, the Gulf region. And so there is a love of the show that is just different. There's a different sense of like, I don't know, there's a different sense of ownership, but also just like deep investment, deep love, deep care, deep, you know, taking care of the show that she brings. And it honestly didn't feel like, oh, this is her first 3 episodes. It was like, oh, so yeah, she's been here directing since, you know, like that's what we've been doing. Like you don't go like, oh, that's Sierra. She used to be the cast. It's like, no, that's Sierra. She's always been that vision-driven person whose life and vision brought her right to this moment. It just felt like, right, you've always been destined for this. We've always known that. So it was so beautiful to see, so beautiful.
Yeah, that's incredible. Love hearing it. Well, look, I am so excited for season 5. This is one of my favorite shows. I can't wait to see what happens with Hollywood and with Aunt Vi, and I want some of her pies because they look incredible.
They do.
But yeah, it looks so good. But unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today's conversation. Season 5 of Queen Sugar premieres Tuesday, February 16th at 8 p.m. on OWN. A big virtual round of applause for our panelists. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to the 3 of you for joining us for this conversation. And thanks to all of you for watching and for your questions. Enjoy the rest of SCAD aTV Fest.
Bye, y'all.